In this lesson, we'll take a look at using the grab tool to shape our low resolution mesh. So let's start where we left off here, and we're down all the way at the bottom level. So hitting page down takes us down to level 0. So we'd like to now begin to shape this a little bit more. So we're going to use one of the sculpt tools. So we'll go to the sculpt tools tab at the lower left. These tools are going to relate to actually sculpting in detail on our mesh. Okay, the paint tools obviously will relate to painting the texture maps, and then we also have some curve tools, pose tools, select and move tools, which we won't really need too much. So in our sculpt tools, we're going to use grab. Now whenever we click on a sculpt tool, you'll notice over here on the lower right below our object list, you'll see some properties. So the size of our brush, the strength, and then whether or not that's going to be mirrored. So if I hover over, you can see that large circle is the size. I can modify it using the slider, or I can hold down the B key and move my mouse, or pen. I'm using a Wacom pen to build this. And then the strength is signified by that line, a vertical line there. And so I can modify that using the M key. Okay, so holding down the M key and sliding my pen back and forth, I can change the strength. Okay, and this applies to all of these different tools. So with the grab tool, we want to start shaping this, but I want to shape it symmetrically. So in this case, this is going to be the x-axis, and so we want to go to mirror and turn on mirroring in the X, and you can kind of get an indication there of the plane that would mirror it across. And so we want to choose X for our mirror. And now you can see I'm over here on the screen right hand side, and you can see the dot over on the left hand side moving around. That's letting us know that that mirroring is working. So the first thing I want to do is start to come in and kind of round off this shape a little bit. So I'm just clicking and dragging, and the grab tool is kind of like a soft modification or a soft select, in that I can just come in, and as I click and move, you can see the points right at the center move the most, and then there's sort of a fall off coming out to the outer edges as far as how things are moving. So I want to come in and kind of soften these things up. Another thing we can do here to just knock the edges off is to hold down Shift and just paint across, and Shift is actually activating a smoothing function, and so it's kind of just smoothing these things down, and so that can help when you're kind of real quickly just kind of knocking off some corners. You can just sort of smooth them down a little bit. So just again holding down Shift just to knock those corners off, and let's kind of knock that down a little bit. And I can start to bring this out, and I want it to be a little bit more of a kind of bell shape. And so let's make our brush a little bit bigger, and I'm going to come in and just pull this in a little bit, maybe pull this out a little, and create a little more of a bell kind of a shape. Maybe on the back of the head we can kind of pull this in a bit, maybe pull the top of the head up a little to kind of taper it. And so we're not even worried about the upper subdivision levels at this point. We're just worried about getting the overall shape created for our mesh. So, you know, one of the ways that you work with subdivision levels is you kind of sculpt as much as you can at whatever level you're on, and then when you get to a limit where you just can't add the detail that you want to add anymore, then you can move up to the next level. Then you add as much detail as you can at that level, and then you just keep going until you're done. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of pull this in a little bit. Let's just get this pulled in. Now, as I said the very beginning in the first lesson, I'm going to be creating a specific looking creature. The main thing for you is to follow the steps in, getting the geometry in, being able to use the tools, not necessarily getting something that looks exactly like what I'm doing. If you want to do that, that's perfectly all right. But I'd encourage you to also kind of add your own flair to it and really make it your own. As long as you understand what it is we're doing, the actual detail that you create can really be up to you, and maybe that could be a little bit more fun being able to add your own spin on it versus just kind of copying what I'm doing. Alternatively, you could also kind of go through once and do it this way and create the look that I create, and then, you know, maybe that gives you some ideas for what you want to do, and go back over it again, maybe trying it without the videos, maybe watching the videos again and kind of just checking in certain areas where you get kind of tripped up, and try it again with your own idea. That could work too. So everybody learns a little bit differently, but repetition is always good, and practice. So you can see, just by kind of knocking off those corners, we've already got a little bit of shape kind of added to this. We can kind of pull his rear end up a little bit, kind of pull his back. So he's kind of like one big head with just some feet sticking out, and then we've got the arms sticking out. So think of this whole thing sort of as his face. All right, so once you've used the grab tool to add a bit of shape to your mesh, the next thing that we can do is take a look at actually sculpting the detail on our creature. And so let's go ahead and begin that process in the next lesson.